parasocial relationship section of your paper 3 relationships exam, and you need to be aware about two main theories for parasocial relationships, so the absorption addiction model and the attachment theory, and we're going to look at both of those and evaluation of both of those in a bit more detail. So a parasocial relationship is a one-sided relationship. Now it's referred to as one-sided because one person is unaware of the relationship taking place. So a person will develop an intense emotional attachment to another person, typically a celebrity, but that celebrity will be unaware that the other person exists or that the other person has any feelings of attachment towards them. So attachment theory believes that insecure attachments are most likely to form a parasocial relationship, and it's insecure resistance that are most likely to develop these type of attachments because there is no threat of rejection from the other person. So when we looked at attachment, we looked at the idea that your early attachment style will later influence your adult type of attachments that you have with friends and with romantic relationships because of that internal working model and the continuity hypothesis. So they will show the same properties of an adult attachment type. So they will have proximity seeking, so they will want to be close to the person that they see as their attachment figure. So they'll want to make contact with them, they might write them fan mail, they might buy things that the person has touched or owned, so they want to be close to that person. They believe that they have a secure base, so that individual, that attachment figure, helps them create a secure base because of that threat of rejection. So that means that they can explore other relationships in a safe way because they feel that they are securely attached to that person and they offer them that secure base to explore the world around them. And they will show protest at the disruption to that attachment figure. So they will show an intense emotional reaction if that attachment figure is lost. So if that a TV character becomes killed off a TV show, they might become very upset about that, as if they'd almost lost someone that they are attached to in real life. Equally, if a band were to split up, again, they would show intense reaction towards that. So if we were to look at some evaluation of this, so there is some supporting evidence that actually those with a parasocial relationship show a similar level of negative response at that disruption to attachment compared to a real relationship. So viewers who were expecting to lose their favourite TV characters actually anticipated negative reactions that were similar to those experienced after a loss of a personal relationship. And again, it was found that insecure attachment types anticipated the most negative responses. So that supports the idea that insecure attachment types are most likely to develop parasocial relationships, and they are, or they have the same characteristics as real attachment types. Contradictory evidence, so participants with insecure attachments were no more likely to form parasocial relationships with celebrities than participants with secure attachment types. So this goes against the idea that insecure attachment types will develop parasocial relationships. Other explanations, we can compare it to the absorption addiction model, which we're going to look at later in this video. So you have to learn about the absorption addiction model, so you might as well use it as an evaluation point if you can, to try and reduce the amount of information that you need to know. And there's methodological problems, so the use of questionnaires, so we've got social desirability bias, so that obviously reduces the validity of results, and it's correlational research, so we can't establish cause and effect. We can't really say that insecure attachment types have parasocial relationships. Just because there's an association doesn't mean that that has caused it. There could be a third covariable that we are not aware of. So if we're to look at then some past paper question, so this was an application type question. So researchers wished to study the link between attachment and parasocial relationships. They surveyed a stratified sample of 118-year-old students from 4 different schools. Some schools had a large number of students and others had a smaller number of students. The students were asked questions about their childhood, their feelings towards celebrities, and about their friendships at school. So that's our little scenario that we have to read, and we're going to have to relate back to this in our 8-mark answer. So discuss the attachment theory explanation for parasocial relationships. Refer to the likely findings of the study above in your answer. So discuss means that it isn't just outline, you're going to have to include evaluation in there, and because it's an application question you're going to have AO2 in there. So because it is an 8-marker, your split of marks will be, even though it's marked holistically, will be AO1, your description is worth 3, your AO2 is worth 2, and your AO3 is worth 3. So in this instance I would do one AO1 paragraph on what attachment theory explanations of parasocial relationships are. So we'd say something along the lines of parasocial relationships can be linked to attachment types from childhood. Insecure attachment types, in particular insecure resistant attachment types, are most likely to develop parasocial relationship because parasocial relationships do not involve the same fear of rejection as real life relationships. Parasocial relationships show the same characteristic as real life attachments, such as protest at disruption of attachment, secure base, and proximity seeking. So that would be my AO1 paragraph. I've then got to link it back to the findings above, so my AO2. So I'm going to have to say what the likely outcome will be. So the idea is students who have a secure childhood attachment will have positive relationships with their friends and will be less likely to form parasocial relationships or less interested in celebrities, whereas individuals with an insecure resistant attachment type are most likely to be interested in celebrities because they have unfulfilled needs that this attachment figure can provide for them, so there won't be that fear of rejection that is going to take place. Now, the absorption addiction model says that parasocial relationships fill a void that is created by shyness and loneliness, and this type of relationship is appealing because there's little risk of rejection, and individuals can become absorbed with that celebrity, which then becomes an addiction. So because they're helping to relieve that shyness and loneliness, it becomes addictive and they become more and more absorbed in that life of the celebrity. Now, Maltby identified 3 levels of parasocial relationships, which are measured on the celebrity attitude scale. So you have entertainment social. So this is where fans watch and keep up to date with their favourite celebrities for entertainment. So they might read gossip columns and watch TV shows or go and see their films when they come out. Intense personal is a deeper level of involvement, and it includes intensive and compulsive feelings about the celebrity. So they really love to talk to others who admire my favourite celebrity. They might particularly join a fan group, talk on forums about it. So it's a bit more intense. Then borderline pathological is when the individual empathises with the celebrity's success and may have over-identify with them. So if I walked into the room, the celebrity, they would be happy to see me. So they believe that the celebrity is also happy to see that person. And this can lead to uncontrollable behaviours and fantasies about their celebrity in their lives. So this interest, as we said, can become addictive and leads them to engage in more extreme behaviours in order to sustain that level of satisfaction that they have developed with that celebrity. So a simple AO1 past paper question has been for 2 marks. Briefly outline the absorption addiction model for 2 marks. So you're going to have to do a point and expand. So don't go into too much detail here. It's only worth 2 marks. So we could talk along the ideas of that parasocial relationships happen because there's no risk of being rejected by a real life relationship, and it's measured on 3 scales, and there's 3 levels: entertainment social, intense personal, and borderline pathological. Moving on to evaluation then of the absorption addiction model. So supporting evidence that there's a link between the absorption addiction model and mental health. So Maltby found that parasocial relationship levels and personality traits are linked together. So entertainment social levels were linked to extroversion, whereas intense personal were associated with neuroticism, and borderline pathological was linked to psychotic personality traits. So this provides a clear explanation of why high levels of parasocial relationships are linked to poorer mental health. Other explanation, again, you've had to learn about the attachment theory, so you might as well compare it to the attachment theory if you have an opportunity to do so. However, usefulness, it lacks explanation. So it describes parasocial relationships. So it describes the 3 levels of parasocial relationships, but it doesn't really explain why they develop or how they develop and the reasoning behind it. And again, we have methodological problems. So again, the use of questionnaires, social desirability, and cause and effect, we can't really establish it. So we can't really say that mental health is causing the person to develop an intense borderline attachment with the celebrity. So if we were to look at some evaluation type questions and AA1 and essay type questions, so explain 2 limitations of the absorption addiction model of parasocial relationships. So this is being quite specific. It wants 2 limitations. So we can talk about the methodological problems of it being a self-report methods we can't establish, which reduces the validity because of the social desirability bias. People might lie, might not be as accurate as first thought. You could compare it to the attachment model of parasocial relationships, so it might not offer a complete explanation of it. If we are to move then on to 16 marker, you might get a 16 marker that's about both of them. So discuss research into parasocial relationships. So this command word of discuss means AO1 and AO3. Research in this sense is theories or explanations. So you can talk about attachment theory for 1 paragraph, evaluate it, then go on to the absorption addiction for 1 paragraph and then evaluate it. Equally, you could get a 16 marker on both of them. So outline and evaluate the attachment theory of parasocial relationships, or outline and evaluate the absorption addiction model for parasocial relationships.